Today, we are digging into a fascinating story that sits right at the intersection of global economics, culture, and, well, some really personal dreams. We're talking about the market for Asian egg donors in the United States, and trust me, it reveals a ton about the world we're living in right now. So let's just start with the number that gets everyone's attention. Compensation for an Asian egg donor can be anywhere from $15,000 to even $20,000 per cycle. Now, that is significantly higher than for other ethnicities, which, of course, raises a pretty big question. Why? What is going on here? Why is the compensation in this very specific part of the fertility market so incredibly high? That is the mystery we're going to unpack in this explainer.
Well, the answer, when you boil it all down, is a classic, really powerful case of supply and demand. It's basically Econ 101 playing out in a deeply, deeply human context.
And the principle at the heart of this is called market scarcity. Put simply, when a lot of people want something and there isn't much of it to go around, its price or its value just skyrockets. So to really get what's happening, we have to look at both sides of that equation. So let's start with the demand side of the puzzle. What is causing this incredible surge in the need for Asian and specifically Chinese egg donors? You know, what's so interesting here is how all these global forces are coming together at once. You've got this massive economic growth in China, which has created a whole new class of affluent couples who can actually afford to look for fertility options overseas. At the very same time, commercial egg donation is illegal in mainland China. That pushes people to look for legal options in places like the US. And then layered right on top of all of that is its really powerful cultural desire for a shared family heritage. And this right here, this really illustrates the core emotional driver. This isn't just some simple transaction, it is all about connection. As the source material points out, these intended parents want to maintain those deep cultural and genetic ties. It's about preserving a family's heritage for the next generation. Okay, so we have this powerful international demand. Now let's flip to the other side of the coin, the supply. Why is it so limited here in the United States? Well, it really comes down to two big things. First, it's just a numbers game, simple demographics. Asian Americans make up a smaller percentage of the population, which means there's a smaller pool of potential donors from the get-go. But, and this is just as important, you have these cultural factors. In some Asian communities, egg donation can be a really sensitive topic, and social stigma can unfortunately discourage women who might otherwise be perfectly willing and qualified. So, this slide really puts it all together, doesn't it? On one side, you have these huge global forces pushing demand way up. And on the other, you have demographic realities and cultural factors keeping the supply incredibly tight. It's this tension, this squeeze, that creates that super high price point we saw right at the beginning. But beyond all these market forces and economic charts, this situation creates a very real and pretty unique opportunity for some individuals. So let's take a look at what this actually means for potential donors. And get this, it's not always just about ethnicity. Within this already high-demand market, there's another layer. Some intended parents are willing to pay an even bigger premium for donors who have specific traits they really value, like, say, an exceptional academic background from an Ivy League school. So you might be wondering, who's actually qualified to be a donor? Well, the requirements are pretty standard for the industry. Generally, you've got to be between 21 and 30, a non-smoker, in good physical health, free of genetic disorders, and, typically have at least some college education. Now, for anyone who might be considering this path, the financial compensation is obviously significant, but it is not a simple decision at all. It is absolutely crucial to do your research, find a reputable agency, fully understand all the medical procedures involved, make sure you have solid legal support, and also prepare for what is a pretty significant emotional commitment. Okay, and let's address one of the biggest questions people have. What about future fertility? On this point, the experts are actually quite clear. The American Society for Reproductive Medicine says there's no evidence that donating eggs negatively affects a donor's ability to have kids later on. Basically, the process just retrieves eggs that the body would have naturally discarded anyway. All right, so let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. What does all of this mean, and where could this unique market be headed? So, what's the real takeaway? I think it's that this market is just a powerful example of how global economics, different national laws, and deeply personal cultural values can all collide to create a completely unique system, one with its own set of rules and its own rewards. And that brings us to our final thought. I mean, this whole story is happening right now,
But it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? As our world keeps changing, as economies grow and cultures evolve, what other markets, centered on the very building blocks of life itself, might we start to see in the future? It's a fascinating and, yeah, a pretty complex question to think about.